Possibly one of the vehicles would have the Chief Minister, Mr. O. Paneerselvam, in it as well. He was sworn in just a couple of hours back as Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, shortly after the death of Jayalalithaa was announced. That came in a statement from Apollo Hospital, which said that at 11:30 p.m. she had passed away. Remember, she had suffered a cardiac arrest yesterday. There were several attempts made to try and revive her. She was put on very sophisticated end-stage life support machines, but ultimately she lost this battle. At 11:30 at night, she passed away. And these crowds are very large, and they're pushing and trying to get as close to Poes Garden as possible. The police trying to keep a lot of these people back. Many of them are leaders from the AIADMK. Many of them are supporters, and there are some scuffles also which are breaking out at this stage as the police try and keep these supporters and fans of Jayalalithaa away from Poes Garden, trying to ensure that those vehicles that you see on your screens right now are allowed to proceed. So there are scuffles which are breaking out at this stage at Poes Garden as those angry and extremely emotional supporters of Jayalalithaa, members of her party and others are being pushed away by the police, who are desperately trying to ensure that this situation doesn't get out of hand. There are not too many vehicles in that motorcade, and hopefully this vehicle that you see right now on your screen would be among the last few vehicles, many of them with MLAs, leaders and others going towards Poes Garden. But just look at the numbers that have thronged outside the residence of Jayalalithaa. That's where her mortal remains have been brought in the last 5 to 10 minutes now. There is a huge assembly of policemen and an even larger assembly of her supporters. And yes, there are scuffles, as you can see, which are breaking out over there. But hopefully nothing gets out of hand. This is an extremely difficult time for people in the state, deeply emotional at the news of the loss of their beloved leader. The police trying to ensure that the situation doesn't get out of hand, but as you can see all around Poes Garden, they are being pushed, are the police, back as all of these supporters try and come forward. And this is exactly what the big fear was, that clashes would in fact break out. The police have, and you can barely see it over there, got a couple of barriers, but they are being pushed against those barriers are the police. And one can only hope and pray that this situation doesn't get out of hand. This is a reminder of what we saw outside Poes Garden earlier yesterday, when again emotional crowds, in fact I beg your pardon, outside Apollo Hospital, where emotional people, supporters of the AIADMK and others were trying to actually get into Apollo Hospital at a certain stage. There again there were scuffles which broke out between the police and the supporters, who the police able to push out the supporters at that stage. Let's just go back to Uma. Sudhir, Uma, some small scuffles breaking out between the police and people assembled over there. Tell us what's happening around you. We've got these live images, fairly dramatic images. Go ahead, Uma.
Yes, indeed, Vishnu. Fairly dramatic is one way of putting it, and very emotional is the other way of putting it, because many of these people who are coming here are there's an outpouring in a sense of grief. Many of them were staying here, standing here, sitting here very, very quietly for the last 2 hours, 3 hours. And as the convoy started approaching, we saw in fact the noise levels going up as people started wailing aloud, talking about the loss that they have had to face with the death of Chief Minister Jayalalithaa. Now the body of the Chief Minister has been taken into the Poes Garden residence. Many of them will be hoping that they are able to get a glimpse of her here at Poes Garden, because all of them were waiting just for that. And with the kind of crowds that we have seen, unlikely that everybody would have even managed a glimpse of their leader. The fact that they are here take a last look at a leader who meant a lot to the party workers, to the supporters, to the activists who are here, and not managing to do that, and all these developments happening quite suddenly, I must say, because day before yesterday, till the day before yesterday, late afternoon, everyone was hopeful that in fact the Chief Minister would go back home to her home after being discharged from hospital. In fact, some of those who gathered at the hospital in the evening told us that they came there because they wanted to see the Chief Minister discharged, and they were quite shocked when in a sudden turn of events it was later reported that the Chief Minister's health had deteriorated and that she had suffered the cardiac arrest. Luckily, at that time, the doctors had said that yes, some of the doctors were with her, and that's the reason they were able to provide the CPR immediately. But unfortunately, despite being put on life support, even despite the life support, hardly about, I must say, about 32 hours after the life support was fitted, it appears that the Chief Minister was not able to cope because the heart and the lung were unable to function the way they should have, being able to pump blood, and after 24 hours the test was to happen to find out whether the heart is able to take at least a little bit of the load of pumping the blood, and doctors had in fact told us and indicated to us that a call would have to be taken about the Chief Minister because yes, she had been put on 30 to 40 minutes of cardiopulmonary resuscitation, which is in fact quite unusual, we are told, because they said that in most other cases a doctor would give up. In this particular case, they know what is the kind of not just political stakes but emotional stakes involved for the state and the people, and that's the reason why they decided to put her on this now very commonly used modern technology of the life support system, which was called the ECMO CPR. Despite that, the bad news coming in, and people even now are trying to see if they can go closer to where the Chief Minister's body has been taken to Poes Garden, inside the Poes Garden residence of Jayalalithaa.
Tuma, thank you very much for being with us. We'll keep coming back to you just for the benefit of our viewers. This is the scene outside Poes Garden. We saw some scuffles between the police and deeply emotional people over there, supporters of Jayalalithaa, those who have believed in her and her vision, her politics, and of course have been moved by her persona. At this stage, things hopefully will settle down a little bit more. The mortal remains of Jayalalithaa now in her residence. They were moved 4 kilometers from the Apollo Hospital to Poes Garden in a little, and later on in the day we believe they'll be placed at Rajaji Hall for members of the public to pay their final respects to her before the last rites. And so that was the hearse in which the body was brought, and as that vehicle passed through, the police struggled to actually keep people away from that route, and people trying to block the entry of some of the other vehicles